Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy, and this is episode 124. On today's episode, I'm sitting down with a very funny comedian and a friend of mine, Richie Redding. He has a podcast called Pets and Punchlines. He also is going to tell us about his new comedy company that he started, his number one album that was released during the pandemic. And also, we're going to talk a little somber about addiction. Recently, there was some comedians who tragically passed away, and we're just going to talk about kind of the struggles and how he was able to win the fight on sobriety and the advice he has. So if you're somebody that may be struggling, this episode's for you. If you love comedy, this episode's for you. Richie's absolutely hilarious. I'm so honored and excited to have him on this episode so we can kind of talk more about these different topics. Our guest, the very funny Richie Redding. How you doing?
Good. Great to see you.
Yeah, great.
Been too long.
I know. You've actually had a pretty successful pandemic. You released a number one album in COVID.
Yeah, well, I mean, I called it. The secret is that I named it the number one album of the year. And
I love it.
Yeah. It. I think I tricked iTunes.
That is so smart.
Yeah, the next one that I'm working on, I know I'm going to call it the top grossing album of all time.
That's amazing. And so did it actually help?
I mean, it was at number one for a few days, but I mean, it's just a really funny thing to be able to like have people bring me up to stage as like, hey, released the number one album of the year, and it's not a lie.
I mean, that's amazing. So are you still doing some of those jokes, or once you've kind of done the album, now you just put them aside and working on the next one?
On stage in the city, I'm working on all new stuff, but for corporate shows, it's like I'm singing the hits for those bad boys because I only have so much clean material, you know.
Exactly, and clean material is hard to come up with. It's a challenge.
It's way harder. Yeah, for sure.
It's easy to go to those, the filth, as well as I do a lot.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like it's also like no racial humor for corporate stuff, and I mean that's like I don't. Somehow I'm the white guy that does urban rooms and gets away with murder with racial humor. So that stuff definitely is out the window for anything corporate. They are so uptight.
Well, yeah, but the good thing about being able to do corporate is they pay really well.
Yes, they do.
And that's why it's like if you can do a clean set, like you've put yourself miles ahead of your peers.
It's the hardest thing to do, for sure.
Yeah. So what's your process of coming up with clean stuff?
It's pretty much just go through my catalog and scrub any of the language out of it, like it's maybe 10% of my stuff is clean enough to do for a corporate environment. But I also just don't put myself on the hook for doing that much time. That's the other.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, how much time do you have to do?
I don't put myself on the hook for more than like 25 at the most.
That's right, because I was going to say, unless you're a totally clean comic, like it's very difficult to do an hour.
Yeah. Well, and as we know, those guys all turn out to be rapists anyway. So stay away from those clean comics, ladies, fellas.
Speaking of rapists, apparently Bill Cosby's working on a new TV show. Did you hear that?
It's so wild. But he's also legitimately talking about going on tour. And I mean,
probably going to sell a lot of tickets. I think people are just, they still want to remember him from, as the nice dad in the sweater from the Cosby Show. And they just, and also I think a lot of people, because he was locked up for so long, are like, yeah, we're doing it. We're going to see Bill Cosby.
if he had OJ open for him, I would spend $1,000 for shitty seats, like
I think most
obstructed
people
view.
would. Yeah.
Obstructed view. I would go watch the Juice open up for Cosby. Be legendary.
Right? It could be, they could just call the How to Get Away with It tour.
Yeah, if I did it.
Or yeah, that too. Exactly.
If I did it to it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I know. So I don't know what production company's involved with it or what it's gonna be, but
Self-produced, for sure. He's
gotta
got
be.
the money. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
I,
what network would touch it.
I don't think anybody's throwing new money at that, you know. But
Yeah.
but yeah, well, just to get back to your opening statement, it has been it's been a crazy time since the shutdown started, and I mean, I don't know if you know this, but my girlfriend, my long-term girlfriend, Lisa, her parents both got the virus really bad,
I
and they
remember.
wound up on the ventilator at the same time.
Oh,
And we got them both back miraculously, but like, I mean, it was the very beginning of the bandy, and they were actually her dad was the first COVID ventilator patient in West Palm Beach County, which went on to be the biggest hotspot in the country, or like in the world at one point. So yeah, I mean, it was just a super intense time. Like if there's one thing I don't relate to, it's people that were like, "Oh, it was so boring." Oh, go fuck yourself, boring. It was really life and death for a couple months. That like, her dad was out of the house for a total of like 74 days. He was in treatment. Um,
oh my
so
God.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
God.
So it was just like really heavy, and it was combined with as you know, just all live performances being canceled. And like the inciting incident was that I got a call from an Israeli ad agency that was referred to me by somebody else I had written something for, and they wanted a funny commercial, and I undercharged and over delivered, little tight with the dough, those Israelis. um, but they gave me like, they were like, yeah, take 2 weeks and give us a funny commercial, and I gave them 4 the next day. And then they got back to me and they were like, hey, you referenced a parody song, could you write that for us? And I was like, double the money and I'll produce that song for you. And like 10 days later they had a fully produced parody song, and they were really psyched about it. My girlfriend was like, yeah, you could start like a comedy consulting company. I was like, yeah, we're funnier than you are. And it just clicked, and I knew that was going to be the name of the company. And I went online expecting to find like 100 comedy consultants, and there's one guy that calls himself that, and he's clearly an open micer that writes jokes for other open micers. I think he was a door guy at the comedy store, but he will write you a page of stand-up comedy jokes, Madison, for $150.
Are they
And
good?
no, I can't tell you how badly I want to pay that money and go on stage and just eat balls with those jokes. But
You should
but
have.
yeah, so yeah, so it might I really just kind of like went crazy. I'm like, I have the alcoholic laser brain, so that like if I focus on something, like I just get like really obsessed, right?
Yeah.
And I really lasered in on this, and the basic idea was like, hey, what if I could bring a diverse writers room to marketing situations and just gun ideas, and you keep the ones that you want. And the first person I talked to about it was the CMO of a really big company, and he was like, I would pay just for my marketing team to see a room full of people that's not afraid to bomb. He's like, you guys like wouldn't care if it doesn't go well, right? Like, no, it'd be hilarious. He was like, yeah, that's worth money. And then he just, yeah, because he said like, they'll get like one idea, somebody puts their hand up, and then they spend an hour talking about why it won't work. And when I get a room full of comics together, it's literally like 100 ideas in an hour. And it's every client that we've had has said it's like, this is a holy shit amount of ideas. Like literally everybody's like, holy shit, this is crazy. And
That's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and I kind of just hit the ground running with it. And there's like a few sides to the company, but the first thing that happened was a guy that had been advising me asked me if we could put together a show for his bank's clients, because they usually spend a lot of money on their VIPs. And it was like, yeah, who do you like? He's like, we like a Sebastian Maniscalco guy. I was like, do you have like $100,000? He was, yeah. It's like, then we can book him. So the first show that I ever produced was Sebastian Maniscalco, Bill Bellamy, and me.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and then from there it was just I literally introduced myself in like 4 months time. I probably had conversations with 500 strangers of like just telling them about the idea for the company, like just anybody that would listen. I was yelling about what a good idea it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like instantly changed my life. That I mean, it's the challenge now is excuse me, is running the company during the day and still going into the city and doing comedy at night.
Right.
And having a relationship and having a life and all those things.
Yeah.
So it was really easy during it. Like it was exactly what I needed during the lockdown when there was nothing to do. That it was like I was literally putting in like 16, 17-hour days for probably 5 months. Like I was just so insanely obsessed with it and figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's been a huge, huge success.
I mean, it's getting there, you know.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, you've got the
sorry, I
world
need to take a
ethic.
drink. I hate when somebody's clearing their throat on a podcast. Hold, please.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you're all good. So who was can you say the company that the Sebastian and Bill Bellamy and you that was for?
I don't know that I can. It's a really big bank.
That's so everybody was remote doing it on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, it was sick. And
So how
then
did you get, did you just
and then
call
during
up
the holiday
Sebastian?
season, what's up?
Did you just call up his agent or contact him or?
I got to him via somebody that we both know.
Mazzilli.
Through your yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I know. I guess if you have the money, you can absolutely get to somebody.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Money
mean,
talks.
yeah, right. It's like, it's not like, hey, I'm trying to get this dude to do a guest spot. It's like, hey, do you want to make a shit ton of money in 45 minutes from your living room? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
right.
I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So were you
Thanks.
guys when you guys were doing the show, were you when you did it via Zoom, were you sitting like we are now, or were you actually like standing like you were on stage?
I was standing.
You
I had the ring light set up and a green screen behind me and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
And how about the other one?
yeah. Uh, those two guys were actually sitting, but I mean, it was all good. I mean, I think there was like 2,000 people watching it.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy.
You've heard of the whole thing, and I've talked about it on this podcast like 3 episodes ago. We talked about the metaverse.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with the metaverse?
Is the metaverse similar to the multiverse, or
I'm not sure what the multiverse,
I
but
lo- I
metaverse.
lose track of these terms.
Yeah, it's basically like how you have NFTs, right? And I had somebody else on talking about NFTs, and they were saying like you might not understand it, but Gen Z would understand. Like I can't wait to swing my digital Gucci boot over my digital Ferrari, living in
Hmm.
my digital world and my avatar. And I'm like, what the, but he goes, exactly. But these other people, and this is kind of where it's moving, but it's like you almost like step into these worlds, and there's a couple companies that are doing them. My friend that was explaining it to me said the possibilities are infinite right now. they provide you with a limitless world. You can go into this metaverse, you can live as your avatar, you can start a company, you get paid in like this Mina token. But what he was saying was for comedy, like in this metaverse, you can open up a comedy club and you're not limited on the number of tickets you can sell, because
Mhm.
you can reach everybody in this infinite world, because
Yeah.
it's a limitless world right now. And then they pay a small amount in this token to come to this show, and you can have millions of people that
Mm.
are in this digital world. And it sounds bananas, but at the same time, like, you know, during the lockdown, your company produced this great show. It was virtual. You had 2,000 people come in. You'd have to have a huge theater in order to ever have 2,000 people. But with this metaverse now, you could open up your Funnier Than You Are comedy club and reach even more people.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know,
first, I did not know what the metaverse was. And that has nothing to do with
look it
like
up for sure.
limited understanding of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely, there's definitely things that aren't going back to the way that they were, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, and one of the things that that we're focused on is we're like, I also provide writers rooms for conferences and like for presentations,
Mm-hmm.
so that like not just, and also hosting conferences, that like the entertainment value has to be so much higher for a, well, let me back it up. That I think what happened with conferences was that at the beginning, everybody was like, oh shit, we got to do this thing online. Like, let's just get through this year. And then it was like July of 2020, people started to realize like, hey, this might not go back to normal, right? That like there's going to be this hybrid experience at the very least. And especially with like investor relations conferences, that like there's never going to be 5,000 people go to Detroit to see how their GM stock is doing ever again, right? That like
It's like such a waste of freaking money.
a waste of time, everybody's flown first class, everybody's stayed in a nice hotel, everybody's gotten drunk. Like if you go to every conference that you're invited to as a wealthy person, you're actively cheating on your spouse. Like there's there
This is
is
very true.
there is poontang on the other end of that line.
It's sad
So
but true. I know. It's like you hear
yeah,
these different stories, you're like, oh my God.
so yeah, so part of what we're doing is like, you know, I've put together like roast writer teams and guys that have and gals that have like monologue experience,
Yeah.
and written 10 minutes of, or like rewritten 10 minutes of presentation for CEOs, so that they go out and do really well, and like, you know, they're engaging and they're sharp. I've even had a CEO on the line that he was doing a virtual presentation, and me and two other comics logged into his Zoom call, watched the room before he went on, and we sent him messages with crowd work to do with every person in the room. And he went out and blazed, like you know, roasted the room and they're like, everybody's like, holy shit. And it was because this guy, he was cheating, you know, he had a corked
Right.
bat, but like, what easier way is it to look great than just have professional comedians feed you your lines in real time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's genius, and it really kind of, you know, loosens up the room, you know.
Yeah, especially when you're about to fire everybody.
Yeah. Is that what he was doing?
No,
Oh.
I just love the idea of that. Like, now that I got your attention, you're all fired.
Right, exactly. We sold this bitch. I'm going off, you know.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's really been crazy. Of like we have a couple of clients that have gotten us to do stuff without going into any details of it. This might be a bit cryptic, but like the idea of comedy consulting and using the opinions of comedians, because
Yeah.
uh, comics are a walking focus group, right?
Mhm.
So like, we understand our own audience, and especially with like more ethnic comics, they really get their own folks, right?
Yeah.
And um, and we've had situations where there's like brands were going to do a launch or something like that, or well, there was one situation that was like a very serious thing involving like Second Amendment rights, and uh, and it had a crazy high profile audience, and we just had a conversation to get like real people's opinions of like, what it was during all the protests and stuff, like
Okay.
to help like very higher ups and corporations understand how it really felt. and,
Gotcha. Okay.
and it was like amazing, but it was like you can't get this feedback from normal people, right? Like
Yeah.
just answering people questions from 1 to 5, you're never going to get the same feedback as an open conversation with a group of friends.
No, absolutely. It's true. Because
Yeah,
then you're going to get the real stuff. Because if your boss is coming to you asking you about a sensitive topic, you're not going to shoot. You're not going to shoot straight with them because
right.
your job's on the line, your livelihood. So you're going
Yeah,
to kind of dance around it and maybe completely lie, depending on what you think their stance is. Um,
right.
just to save face versus when you're with your friends and you have nothing to lose. That's the real you that starts to come out.
Yeah, and like, and also it's just it's a thing that we found in the like writing for diversity, and like, just really targeting. So like a thing that you can do now, which is crazy, with Instagram ads, and this is something we're still just talking about, but it looks like it's going to happen, is that um, there's it's possible to make ads for the same product that totally target different groups, right? That'll be funny to different groups. So you can do you can do one, you could target a hard seltzer towards white girls, one towards black people, one towards Latinos, one towards Indians, right? And like, and it's all the same product, but totally different humor.
Okay.
And it's something that no ad agency could ever generate, because it's like they have one person maybe from each of these demographics, and that one person, A, might not be funny, B, might not be creative, but C, can't speak for the room, so it's like if you put
Right.
together an actual diverse writers room that comes to agreement, then it's funny. But it's like
Yeah.
a lot of the times it's just like you've got the token who is a stiff, but and they might be a two for token, right? That it might be the black lesbian, and they're notoriously funny. So that one woman will have to speak for for everyone that in that group, and it's just unfair to put it on people,
Yeah.
and you can't get to the creativity.
Well, I mean, that's such a brilliant, brilliant idea.
Thank you so much.
And I think, I mean, you're just at the beginning, right? I think it's going to be a huge success, or I know it will be a huge success.
Well,
And
thank you.
it is such a good idea because, a lot of these ad agencies, especially, they pay a lot of money to these people.
Yeah.
And if they could reduce their bottom line, and hire a company where they're actually getting comedians to do this, I mean, it just seems so much more business efficient.
Yeah.
And the consumers are going to enjoy it more because everybody likes to laugh.
Right.
If I see a funny commercial, like those are the ones you remember.
Oh, for sure.
You know what you should, what they don't make funny? You should make this funny. Is uh and skincare and anti-aging products are
Mhm.
never funny.
Hmm.
Like they would
Yeah,
be
I mean, well, I mean, there's definitely whole sectors that are really afraid of doing like the funny stuff, or they think of funny as like as talking down and not clever.
Interesting. What
Yeah,
industries are those? Like the beauty industry?
pharma for sure. I haven't even looked at beauty stuff, but yeah, I mean that's the beauty thing is definitely a good idea.
I mean, a line that just came to my mind is your face and neck starting to look like your husband's ball sack? Maybe it's time for. Are you getting that saggy, crepey skin? Well, we've got the answer for you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find the right company to sign off on that for sure.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the downer of it is that a lot of the funnest stuff and the best stuff definitely like goes to the wayside, and
Yeah.
we found that if we're not producing it ourselves, they're gonna fuck it up. But that's kind of just been like a natural evolution of it, is that after the first few times of building the writers' rooms, they've started to come back and say, "Okay, can you make this for us?" It's like, "Yes, we can."
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. That's
so
amazing.
yeah, so that's where I really wanted to go, and there's some fun things in the works in terms of that, and I plan to always just use comics, right? Like
It's,
to be the on screen talent, and
and most of it, as we know, most of our peers, they could use the work and the money. So
yeah,
it's they're really creating opportunities for our peers, which is so cool.
right, and it also it cuts out the crazy bullshit step of, for the most part, of a casting agent, right? Like
Right.
having having a casting agent for a commercial, like I mean, unless it's something that's so specific, like I mean, it's absurd, right? That it's like I've done like third round of callbacks for like a limited run commercial, and it's all just justify your existence type shit. It's like, and they probably, well, not probably, the casting agent makes 5 to 10 times as much as the talent does.
Is that right? Wow.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
Wow. I
Yeah.
remember being in a commercial casting. I think it was the second round, the callback. And there's three people, as there usually is, the people that read, the camera guy, and some other guy. And the woman came up and she took a makeup remover and wiped all the makeup off my face. And then
What?
it was amazing. And I was like, well, I wish you would have told me this before, because it would have saved me a lot of time this morning. Wiped all the makeup off my face, and she was like, that's better. Let's try it again. Now, I didn't get the role, but she was trying to make me look more like uh, a woman, a busy woman going to pick up her kids.
Yeah.
And I don't wear, you know me, I don't wear that much makeup. But she was like, I want nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, I still didn't get
Yeah.
it, but they were just
Could have
looking
put that in the
for me.
notes.
Yeah, but it was the weirdest thing. I was like, what? And she didn't tell me what she's doing. She's like, I just want to wipe your face. And before I knew it, everything was off. I was
That's
like,
crazy.
this is bizarre. If I had gotten the commercial, it would have been a great story.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's like I always say that every comedy contest is stupid except for that one that I won.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, if she wiped that makeup off and you got it, that woman was a genius. She saw through the sheen.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, no. And but it is interesting that those casting, I guess they're paid so much because they've got to sift through all the bullshit and then sift through all the interviews. Who knows?
Yeah, but like, and two things on that is that one is that um, they're usually they have somebody, they have a look in mind, and they know the second you walk in the room if you fit that or not. So you're like you're either, you walk in the room and you're either a maybe or a no, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just based on the idea that they have in their head.
Yes.
And the and then the other thing is that the biggest I mean, across the board. Well, I mean, maybe it's just for the ones that I'm auditioning for, or I did audition for, is that it's always like strong improv skills required.
Yes.
And it's because they know it's shit copy, right? Like they're sending you a half-baked script, and they want you to look like the person that they have in mind. So instead of that, when when we have a writer's room and we have a comic that we have in mind to deliver it, we can bring them in on it and nail the script before we ever go to shoot it. And it's written in the voice of the person that's going to do it.
Such a time saver and so much more freaking efficient.
It's wild that it's novel.
Yeah, I mean, this is amazing. So, how many commercials have you shot, and where can people see them?
We've done 6 commercials, I think, so far. 3 of them are out. They're all just online right now. They're on my LinkedIn for
Okay.
Richie Redding and Funnier Than You Are. And my favorite one is this. It's Witzig. It's this Dachshund brand, and it's every kind of accessory that you can possibly have for dachshunds, and their big seller is their harness.
Okay.
And their market research showed that well, people are just crazy about these dogs, but that they think that their dogs like it can like talk to them and are manipulative, that like they're just like so expressive, and then they just bully them around somehow. So one of the ideas that we came up with was I mean, it's a straight up ripoff of the talking Chihuahua from Taco Bell back in the day.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
theirs was meant to just mess with high people to make them go get tacos. But it's like, we called it hypnotic doxy, and it's just a dachshund staring straight into camera, and there's like the mesmerizing like spinning hypnosis wheel, and we made it look like this dog's talking, and I did the voiceover for it of like, "Hello, it is I, your dachshund," and it's I mean, it was like a throwaway of an idea that we turned into a commercial, and the best performing asset that they ever had lasted them 3 weeks, and this thing's it's on week 15 right now.
Oh my
And
God.
it's still outperforming on a daily basis any ad that they've ever had. And
Wow.
it gets the thing that they're like super thrilled about is that it gets tags and shares, and nobody ever tags people or shares a commercial, but if it feels like a sketch, then they do.
Yeah, so are you gonna have to are you dealing with any of the unions right now?
Not yet, no. I mean,
Okay.
we will eventually.
Gotcha. Okay. So I wonder how things will kind of change with that.
I mean,
It's like if you
we'll
don't
deal with
have
it.
to, why do it right now?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's almost more fun just doing the online ads because it's a little bit
Yeah.
more of a Wild West, and also because of the pandemic, people care much less about that. It's like yeah, I'm going to turn down this work. Thanks.
Right. No, exact. That's true. That is very true. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I think this is great. So the website is funnierthanyouare.com.
Funnyerthanyouare.com. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And
So companies can go there, get a funny commercial, get more kind of focused content for what they're trying to do. But what about individuals? Like, do you do anything if somebody wanted to do something for, a birthday party or, like a gift
uh,
or?
yeah, I mean, we've done some private shows, but I mean, it's all much more corporate focused right now, just because it's when they asked John Dillinger why he robbed banks, It's where the money is.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Yeah.
It's always one of those things like, would you do this? Well, am I going to get away with it? That's the main question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it's only the reason getting caught. Are you still doing your podcast with your girlfriend, Pets and Punchlines?
It's on hiatus right now. We changed it to We Don't Deserve Dogs, but we've been on hiatus for a few months just because we're both figuring out how to do this whole balance thing that she's taking on a pretty big job right now too.
Okay. So you guys are, it sounds like you're a good team and, making it work, and you're both busy with stuff, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm finally almost catching up to this broad,
Yeah.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Right. Now exactly. So you're starting to feel, but obviously she chose you for a reason,
Yeah. It's my cooking.
Yeah. There you go. Not
Yeah.
your jokes. Not your jokes. Turn to the side because we have to see this mullet, and I got to hear about this mullet. Like, that is a full-on fucking
I think that's the better
mullet.
side. Yeah, they call that the good Lord's favor right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It started as a joke. Well, it started as like, I was literally cutting my own hair at one point, and I've cut everybody's hair but Lisa's. I think I wound up doing both of her parents and my mom. Cutting my mom's hair was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life during the quarantine.
How did you even learn how to cut hair?
I was just using the buzzer for me.
Yeah.
And then when my mom was like to the point of crying her eyes out, like, I feel so ugly, it was horrible. And it was just like, fuck it, I'll do it, and
Yeah.
I had a pair of, like, let's say $6 scissors, and I had this girl that I'm friends with that used to do like house calls and cut mine and Lisa's hair. I got her on Zoom and she walked me through cutting my mom's hair. And I mean, it was like an hour and a half. It was a point cut, which is apparently like extremely difficult to do, but it came out looking pretty good. But holy shit, was it nerve wracking.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but I digress to that. Yeah, at first I just gave myself a mohawk because it was like, who cares? It was June, I think, of 2020, and put like the lightning bolts in the side and all that dumb shit. And then as it grew out, somehow it just started with mullet. It was a mohawk at one point, and then it was really funny that it was like the way that it kind of like unraveled was that, like, I kind of did, and Lisa was like against it when I, like, just the idea of it, and then she was like, I don't hate it. And then we kept doing, like, we'd wind up on podcasts or Zoom calls with like, girlfriends of hers and they're all like, I don't hate it. And I think the solidifying thing was this very gay stylist that we interviewed. This guy Lo Von Rumpf. We were talking, and he's like, "Oh my God, turn your head," and I did. He's like, "You are a little dirt snack," and I was like, "I'm keeping it." It's like a gay man called me a dirt snack. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's the best. That's the best insult anyone could ever say.
I mean, I don't. Is that an insult? I think it's a
It's not.
backhanded compliment.
Oh, I mean, some people could take it as an insult. I don't think it's not insult at all. I want to start calling people that.
Yeah. I mean, a gay guy.
I've heard the dirt star, which is an asshole. Which is your asshole.
Yes.
Remember?
Much different. Entirely different.
A dirt snack?
Yeah, well, dirt. Well, I guess if you're a gay guy, a dirt star could be a dirt snack.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, a gay stylist complimenting your hair is like a black guy complimenting your shoes. It's like, oh, these,
Yeah.
I'm keeping these.
I would go with the black guy complimenting your ass before the shoes.
Well,
it depends
being
if
that
straight.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The straight, black guy compliments your ass as a white woman, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you're not getting those compliments.
No. I'm not kidding. No, we know. Trust me. I've got to go to the gym tonight and I got to do a lot more squats. I'm telling you. I'm trying to
Baby girl.
push up that booty. But I've accepted myself. It's all good.
Well, no, and you look great.
Oh,
I'm just saying, black guy ass compliments. I mean, that's just another level, right? Like
yeah.
you're gonna need to put some injections in the back.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah,
Do you know anybody that
has ass
has
implants?
ass implants? Yeah.
No, but obviously myself and a lot of people I know have breast implants, and
Right.
there's this whole thing now where people are getting really sick from them, and they're getting like some autoimmune disorders, and I have a friend who had this disease that started like 3 years ago, and she's starting to lose mobility, or she lost
What?
mobility in one of her legs and then her foot, and she couldn't figure out what's going on. She's gone to all these treatments, all these neurologists, and finally somebody was like, do you think it's the breast implants? Because first she had the birth control, and then she had the implants. So they finally got out the IUD, didn't feel that much better, and then she went to a support group and she's getting them out and she can't wait. But like all these women are getting sick from them, so it's like, I hope I don't get sick because I kind of like them, but at the same time your health's more important than what you look like.
How?
So, but yeah, I wouldn't do ass implants because like that's so much pressure on them, and it's just so
I just
gross.
wonder what does it feel like to sit on that? Like it
Gotta
just seems
feel weird.
dangerous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Like if you're that desperate, like I feel like if you're that desperate, like you need like ass implants, like that's a whole new level. See a psychiatrist first to try to figure out how to love yourself. And if then like you really need them, then do it. But like there's gonna be ass implant diseases coming up. Did you have your ass implants removed because you don't feel good? I mean,
Right. There's gonna be commercials for it. Well, but I mean, that
yeah,
thing with your friend, that's so crazy. But
I
let me
know.
ask this: is she married?
No.
Oh, because I was hoping that like the titties worked. She reeled him in, and then switcheroo.
I know, exactly. Well, listen, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you gotta. Everybody wants to look good and they want to feel their best, and that's great. But at the same time, if you're with the right person, it shouldn't really matter. That's at
Mhm.
least what I keep telling myself. Um, but it's like you just don't know. But let's switch gears real quick because I know that we don't have too much time left. But recently there's been a lot of tragedy within our community, the comedy community. Over Labor Day weekend, we tragically lost 3 comedians. One,
Mhm.
thank God, survived. But about addiction, and you had written a very beautiful, very well thought out post about that because you were a former alcoholic, correct?
Mhm. Oh, for sure. Current.
So tell us a little bit about that and kind of the recovery phase, because I can't speak to that because I don't fall into that category. So it's hard
Yeah.
for me to
Thank
kind
you.
of talk on it.
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you for the compliment on the post. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy that it was 3 people died just doing coke, and on a it was a Friday night in LA, and then so I was already bummed about that, and then Michael K. Williams died of an overdose,
And it was all
and
fentanyl.
well, I mean, it's unclear right now if what happened with Michael K. Williams, but I mean, probably, yeah. But like I don't know. I guess it was like the comments were it just kind of got under my skin, and it was like the first part of it being like, you know, just you've got to stop doing powdered drugs, and it was like it's not that easy, and I don't know if these people are addicts, but I guess there's 2 parts to that one. That it's like if you're an addict, then just stopping is not easy, and it's like it's beyond your willpower and beyond your control. and it's insanity that you're living in. But like, you know, it's the only disease that tells you that you don't have a disease. And the best way to put it is there's that, what was that, was it Crazy Heart song? It was it's funny how falling feels like flying, you know. And it's like, and that's just what it is that, like, when you're in the throes of, if you're in the throes of addiction, I don't know if they were, then you're falling but you feel like you're flying, you know. To feel it, like, for me, when I was at my worst and like literally insane and hallucinating for 2 months, I was telling myself that I was having like this amazing experience. But I mean, it was like, it was dark, but it was like, I'm killing it. So so I mean, that's one aspect of it, but the thing that really just kind of messed me up about that was that it's like, you're not supposed to die just from doing coke. And I know you're, yeah, but I know little Miss Madison has never done such a thing, but it's like, it's
twice. I didn't like it, luckily, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's hard. It's scary.
But it's like, you know, it's supposed to be almost financially impossible to die from an overdose of cocaine, right? And the fentanyl thing is so scary, and I wanted in that piece to explain the fentanyl thing, and it's that a friend of mine, I mean, this is my understanding of it. This isn't the official storyline, but I have a friend that's a paramedic who's had to Narcan a ton of people, and the coke gets stopped at the border so often now that it's gotten much more expensive, and meth is a lot cheaper to make domestically on this side of the border. So it'll have enough coke in it to taste and smell like coke, and then they mix in meth. But the meth is so speedy that they have to slow it down for it to feel anything like coke. So they mix in fentanyl. And so there's an actual recipe for it, that if you had a chemist or a pharmacist spin this shit down for like 2 days in a really expensive machine, then you could get to a homogeneous mixture and it would be safe-ish for human consumption, right?
Okay.
But it's just some dude with a spoon, right? And it's probably only 1 or 2 degrees away from the end user who's mixing it like this, right? Which and the closer you get to the end user, the poorer the person is that's selling it, right? So it's not some kingpin mixing this shit. It could be a guy at a crack house who then sells it to a drug dealer that goes to bars and then sells it to so
yeah, because you don't know where this shit's coming from.
right.
That's the most frightening part.
Yeah. So the DEA says, and I don't really trust DEA numbers. I mean, these are the people that say that, you know, one hit of crack cocaine, we'll be addicted for life.
Listen, and after this pandemic, I don't trust any agency with a 3-letter word.
Right. And they're also the same people that'll get, like, you know, an ounce of cocaine and say that a $100,000 bust was made. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But they say that that it takes 2 milligrams of fentanyl to cause an overdose in the average size person, right? And so so to do some metric math here, 2 milligrams is there's 1,000 milligrams in a gram of cocaine, right? So that's $50, $60. So that's 1/500th of a bag of coke, right? So like, I mean, and for people that haven't done coke before, it's probably the size of a stamp,
Mm-hmm.
right? 1/500th of the coke inside of a stamp worth of a bag could kill you. And another way to look at that is that,
God.
yeah, and another way to look at it is that if you got $50 worth of cocaine, 10 cents of it could kill you. What does 10 cents worth of cocaine look like? It's infinitesimal, right? I mean, it's like it's less than what you lick and put on your tongue.
Yeah.
And that's what's so fucking scary about it, is that, like, you know, even if you said to a dealer, like, hey man, let me see you do something just to make sure it's good, and that guy does it, those 2 milligrams could be in the bottom corner and he pulled off the top, you know, he went top left, it could be the top bottom right.
I know.
And
And
it's
is so frightening. It's like, I mean, do you think we're ever gonna see like it go away, or is it just gonna get worse?
I don't know. I mean, I know there's like testing kits and shit, but yeah, I mean, it's absolutely not a safe time to do powdered drugs. And
Right. And it's easy for somebody who's not addicted to say, you know, hey, don't just don't do it right now. Just put it
right,
away. But
right,
again,
and
I'm not coming from the addicted standpoint with that drug. So it isn't that easy to just
yeah,
put away. So it's like, how do we keep these people safe right now?
I don't know. And it's I mean, it's definitely, and I don't want to be that teetotaler that's like, you know, trying to apostatize people. It's just like, I don't know. It's people just have to be aware of the risk right now. But like, you know, and then the other, well, it kind of just to the Michael Williams thing, is that, like, what was so sad about him is that he was in recovery at points, and at multiple points, and I know people that knew him in recovery, and like, you know, he really was doing the work and trying to help people. I
Yeah.
know a guy that went with him once a month to Rikers Island, and
Wow.
they took a meeting to those people, you know, to the prisoners, and just to think of the experience, the effect that would have on a prisoner when fucking Omar shows up and
Yeah.
talks about being an addict. Like, I can't think of a more powerful messenger. And and I know that he called his disease the murderer. And you know, and I don't know anything else about it, but I know that the well, first of all, I mean, I think an understanding that people kind of need to have uh, about opiate addicts is that, I mean, a lot of people wind up on heroin just because they start with pharmaceuticals that were prescribed by a doctor, and then
Yeah.
it gets away from it, and it's way too expensive to do the farm use, so you wind up with street drugs. But the other thing is that it's like, I know a lot of heroin addicts, and you're not having fun. Most of them are using to not get sick, right? Like, that's the driving force behind a lot of heroin consumption. Is just like, I had a buddy that's a guy that I worked with in sobriety that said being dope sick is like a full body sprain. It's like, imagine the worst sprain you ever had in your ankle, and your whole body feels like that for 3 days. Like, Jesus. And then and the way that a lot of heroin overdoses happen are people that pick up after not having used a long time, which might be the case with Michael K. Williams, right? And they start off. So a thing about addiction is that it's progressive, right?
Mhm.
And even when you stop, they say that your disease keeps going. So if I pick up now, I'm not going to pick up where I left off 13 years ago. I'm going to pick up where I would have been after 13 years, right? So a lot of addicts pick up and they try to go back, and they basically start where they were, or even if they start like half of where they were. Here's what the problem is, which is that you have a fixed amount of opiate receptors in your body, and think of it like golf balls, right? So that there's only so many dimples in a golf ball, and if all of those dimples fill in and water goes over them, then they're not gonna. It's like, seats taken. So
Yeah.
they can't absorb any more than this fixed amount, and opiate, and that's what opiate tolerance is
Okay.
that there's already so many opiates jamming up your receptors that you can't hold anymore, and that's what prevents overdoses in people that have tolerance. So if somebody starts off where they were and bam, they flood all those receptors at the same time, that's what causes an overdose. It's because,
Gosh.
yeah, and it's because they're not expecting the high, because they were literally unable to absorb everything that they were shooting before.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so tragic, and you see right now, especially like in New York City, the amount of drug use that's just right in the open eye is insane.
Wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's wild.
like you used to
And
see somebody
it's
shooting up
ugly.
the street, and it was kind of rare. You wouldn't see it all the time. You would see it once in a blue moon, and now it's like if you don't see it, you weren't out that much. You know?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Like it's just it's a scary time. It's sad. It's yeah, and I feel for all those people that are going through, trying to get help or wanting to go to recovery, and it's like all you can do is just pray for them, and hopefully
Yeah,
more test kits will be made available, just for the
right.
safety of, you can't stop cocaine from ever being used, unfortunately, but you at least, if they're going to party with it, they can have a good time. And you always kind of think of it as a somewhat harmless thing, like the
Right.
party drug for the rich and famous in a way, and it isn't, and it leads to other things, and it's scary. But
Yeah.
but listen, I know you have to go, but
Did we bum people out enough? That's what
I
I
know.
like to.
I think we.
What I like to do in a podcast is talk about myself for 45 minutes, and then talk about dead strangers for 15.
Right. I think you nailed it. I know. Do you have a funny joke to even if it's a stupid joke, just to lighten up the mood as we end out on this podcast?
No. No, I mean, I feel like it's a necessary topic to talk about.
It is.
And I talk about my my experience with addiction and stuff, because hopefully it helps somebody.
Oh,
And I've been really blown away by people reaching out and telling me their own stories and stuff. But
yeah.
and it's a good way that I like to put it is that it's like you only have to avoid the first one, right? That it's like, and it took me a long time to I always thought I was pretty smart, but it's like it's the first drink that gets you drunk. And a great way to put it is if you get hit by a train, it's not the caboose that kills you.
Right.
Right. So
yeah.
I just have to worry about getting hit by the front part of that train. But
right.
that joke goes way better in rehab. But yeah, I stink at this. But it was so great seeing you, Madison.
Yeah, tell everyone where they can follow you, find you, besides your company. Say that again so they know.
Everything is at Richie Redding if you want to hit me up on the social stuff. And my LinkedIn is for Funnier Than You Are, and also Richie Redding. And funnyerthanyouare.com for any marketing consulting needs, and also for corporate shows. Might even book Madison Malloy if you want.
I would love that. I know I'm writing some stuff. I got to clean up my act.
All right, well, this was great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and you guys listening wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, and we'll see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.